Welcome to this mini course called 5 Kinds of Breaks to Take During Your Workdays. I'm Vivian Winterhoff from Joy in Movement. I am your R&R cheerleader, your rest and relaxation cheerleader, and I am a somatics practitioner in rest and self-care. So my mission, in a nutshell, is to help everyone understand, and especially to help solopreneurs understand, that self-care needs to be the first thing to stay in challenging times, in particular in challenging times. How often do we, when we're uptight against a deadline, or we just feel we have so much to do, neglect our own basic needs to move, to eat, to drink water? I mean, those are the very basic self-care needs that we have, and those can go by the wayside so easily. And yet those are the ones that are going to be like anchors in our days, that are going to be the things that support us and help resource us, and also simply prevent us from burning out completely. So this is why I believe it's so important to really have that as a priority, to take care of ourselves in all the different ways that we can. And you'll find some of those here today. Hopefully it will be inspiring for you. And yeah, it's just, for solopreneurs, especially important because there's only one of each of us for our business. And without us, the business won't run. So we need to take care of ourselves. So I just want to say that you are here for a reason. I don't know what exactly that is. I'll just take a guess. But before I move on, if you are thinking that you don't have time for this and you don't have time for breaks, then that could be a sign that you need a break. So thank you for hanging in there. Stay with me. So maybe something is telling you that something needs to change, maybe in the way you're working, in the way you maybe are taking breaks. So maybe you're wondering why they're not really working for you, why you still feel exhausted. Maybe you're looking for inspiration and wanting to strengthen your own self-care and your own breaks practice. And maybe you're just curious. So throughout this presentation, in particular when I list the different kinds of breaks, I would like you to reflect. I'm inviting you to reflect on the following. What kinds of breaks do I already take? So do you already take? And how do they make me feel? What kinds of new breaks appeal to me? Maybe I'll be sharing something with you that you haven't thought of before. And very often we think that something isn't truly a break when it really might be very beneficial for us. So there might be some aha moments there. And what could a workday breaks routine look like for me? How could these different kinds of breaks actually fit into your workday in a way that feels natural and refreshing to you, and not like a burden, not like something you have to do? So let's get to it. The 5 kinds of workday breaks in a nutshell. So first we have what I call mindless breaks. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. Then secondly, we have what I would call mindful, meditative, and or movement breaks. And I have boldened these 2 because I want to talk about each of those a little bit more than the others. And just so you know, I have categorized them simply to be more useful, a useful way to think about the different activities that you might do around your work. But these are not hard and fast categories, and you'll see, in fact, that they will overlap. And so a lot of the, like, this is basically, for me personally, how I see it, but you might see it slightly differently. You know, if you're an artist or an accountant, like, you might have very different views of the different categories of breaks, and we'll see that in a minute. So thirdly, we have social and relationship breaks. We have exercise breaks, and we have what I call other to-do list breaks. And I do talk about that in my guide, 6 Steps to Self-Care for Solopreneurs, not only, but also, and I'll link to that later below. So before we go into the first 2, I want to talk about 3, 4, and 5. So social and relationship breaks are important, especially for solopreneurs if you are working from home or in your own office and you don't really get to interact with people very often. Human connection is just something we need as humans, but also as solopreneurs, we tend to be more isolated. And this is actually one of the causes and at the same time, one of the signs of one stage of entrepreneurial burnout. So it's really important to cultivate those social relationships, those friendships, and your more intimate relationships with your family, your partner, because it's just good for our overall health, and therefore that will feed into our business and our work as well. Same goes for exercise breaks. We all know that is so important, is to move the body and to really get it moving and refresh the mind as well. And so I don't really need to say much more about that. And the other to-do list breaks, for me, those are things like, especially because I work from home, it'll be like the things that I don't have time for when I'm working on my business, and that can overwhelm me on top of my work, let's say, on top of the work related to my business, directly related to my business. So things like washing the dishes, vacuuming or cleaning the floors, cleaning the toilet, the bathroom, going grocery shopping, all those kinds of things, maybe even like gardening, So these are things that have to be taken care of, that could be overwhelming, but they can also provide a great opportunity for a break. So let's talk about mindless breaks. And the first kind of mindless break that I will talk about is media related. And specifically social media and TV or, internet series like Netflix. How often do we feel like we just need to switch off, which is a totally valid thing. And then we might reach for a remote control, or we might go and quickly check social media and scroll through our feeds. The issue, and this might be the only time I actually portray this as unhealthy. And again, it depends on how you consume the media. If you're able to set limits, or if you binge, if you use it to procrastinate and avoid difficult things, it can be, and I've just lost my train of thought, but basically it's not really a break for your brain, and it's certainly not a break for your body. So if you've been sitting at your desk for a while, or in some kind of stationary position doing one thing for quite a while, most likely if you're watching TV or on your phone, you're not going to be moving. You're still not going to be moving. Plus, you're looking at a screen, an electronic screen. And that can be, from being really bad for your eyes and your body, to not giving your mind that break, because your brain probably sees your phone as work. Your brain sees your computer as work, and you're still, you're engaging in content that isn't giving your brain that break that you need. The other thing to be aware of, and also with reading books, so if you make time to read books, just being aware that they can be really engaging emotionally, intellectually, and that's not a bad thing per se, but it's just something to be aware of. So, especially if you're watching on TV, let's say the news, or if you're reading, if you like reading horror or drama, it can sort of color your days, as I would put it. So it can affect your mood. It can affect anxiety levels, whether you feel sad or not. It can affect how you interpret certain events in your life. Maybe you would start to worry more about things. Types of memories you recall can be affected. And so it just really has an impact on your life. And I would just say to that, thoughts are powerful. So be aware of what kind of media you are consuming. And if you want to take these kinds of breaks, I would say limit them. we want to look at what the benefits are of social media detoxes, some people call them, where you either limit your consumption to 30 minutes per day of social media, or you completely cut it out of your life for a while. And looking at the benefits can give us an idea of how it might impact our lives when we are consuming it incessantly. So basically, the benefits include reduced stress levels and anxiety levels, and reduced feelings of loneliness, interestingly, because very often we're actually looking for connection when we're looking at social media in particular. And so there's a reduced fear of missing out on things, that FOMO, and perhaps you lose that sense of inadequacy when you're looking and you're comparing, and that imposter syndrome thing. And so overall, stepping away from social media boosts mental well-being. And the other thing is it gives people better sleep. So this is actually a study that was done. So, if you're the kind of person who is looking at their phone or watching TV before going to bed, but you also struggle with sleep, that I'm sure you know this already, it might be better just to give yourself like a 2-hour window before going to bed where you don't have any electronics in your field. So enough about that. Let's talk about something else under the mindless breaks category, in my view, mindless daydreaming. It's not doing nothing. You're actually giving your brain and your mind this opportunity to wonder, to make new connections, maybe to dream into, a bright and hopeful future for yourself and for the world, if you like. So it's really important to allow yourself to daydream. And this is something that our minds and our brains are naturally prone to do and are meant to do. I talk about the importance of resting a little bit more in my free training, how to go from exhausted to energized in 12 minutes. If you haven't watched that yet, I highly recommend you do, and I'll link to it below. And part of this daydreaming kind of world is art and music and any kind of artistic activity, basically, for me, because it's like being in that flow where you're not really thinking. So for me, mindless means I'm not really thinking, I'm switching off. And then finally, you're really not thinking, or at least consciously doing so, when you're taking a nap. And so all I'll have to say about naps is that there's a ton of research out there. And just listen to your own body and see what works for you, if you are a nap taker or not. Some people recommend 10 minutes max as a power nap. Some people say 60 minutes is actually more beneficial for things like memory, improved reaction time, logical reasoning, emotional regulation. But it's a really personal thing, and it can benefit some people, while for others it's just not going to work. So I would say see what works for you, and I'll repeat that throughout this little mini course here. So, and just to say that for some of you who are like, well, but art for me is like actually a really mindful activity. Yes, absolutely, it can be. And also things like cleaning can be super mindful and can, and I include those in the other to-do list breaks, but that doesn't mean that I can't clean mindfully, that I can't be really present and switch off my mind when I'm cleaning the toilet, let's say. And then exercise breaks as well, like they can be mindless. Who's a runner here and finds that their mind just goes completely blank when they've hit that zone of running? I used to run, and I definitely experienced that. And things like, if you're a dancer or, move a lot, even just moving is exercise. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Maybe not quite the cardio exercise that we think of, but it is movement. It's really important. It's also medicine. And that can be very mindful, and it can also take you into a space that is mindless in that sense. So as I said, everything overlaps. But I've just categorized it to be maybe more useful to you. So here are the categories one more time, just to give you another snapshot of them. And next, I want to talk about the second category here, which are mindful, meditative, somatic, in brackets, movement breaks. And so I just want to talk about, you might be drawn to these kinds of breaks. Maybe you practice them already, but I think there's a lot out there. There's a lot of choice out there. There's a lot of, I don't know where to start with these kinds of breaks. So I just want to speak to that a little bit. So we have guided meditations, let's say, and we have unguided meditations. Yeah, the very traditional where they ring a bell and you sit there and you're supposed to calm the mind, or you're supposed to just meditate, for 2 to 10 minutes to 30 minutes. Those are essentially unguided when no one's talking. You might have online, there's a lot of online offerings, including my own. And you have in-person offerings as well. And I'm thinking, things like yoga classes, where you might go physically to a studio and practice these. And you have the group classes, you have individual classes, one-on-one, individual sessions. There's a lot of choice out there. And then on top of it, there's all sorts of disciplines. So we have, yoga, and then within yoga, how many different kinds of yoga are there? Not all of them I would consider personally to be mindful and meditative. A lot of the yoga, certain disciplines, especially the more westernized ones from my perspective, and forgive me if I'm if I'm wrong about this, please feel free to point that out, are very physical and very much, well, there's certain yoga practices, let's just say, that are much more meditative than others, at least for me. And you might have Tai Chi, you might have Qigong, and I just want to mention that there is also somatics, which is included here in this type of break description: mindful, meditative, and somatic breaks. And those are the kinds of breaks where you really get a chance to tune into your body and to notice what's happening. So it's kind of like a form of body mindfulness. And there's a nice middle ground between guided and unguided, and I'll talk to that a little bit more. But basically, all to say, there is so much choice out there that might paralyze you. And that's why, one reason why I want to present to you my Joyful Breaks program. And so it fits really easily into your workday. That is the key for me. That's why it's designed specifically for solopreneurs who are busy and really don't have much time for breaks. So maybe don't have time to go to a yoga studio in the middle of the day. This one you can do in the middle of the day. In fact, there's a schedule. If you like live breaks, there is a schedule which provides you with a routine and also provides you with accountability for showing up live. For the sessions, and they're short. They're only short sessions, 12 minutes. It's easy to join the whole program. You can join right now. I'll link it below, and you can start right away, because they're online sessions, and they're both live, and you can listen to the replays. And it's on an exclusive platform, so there's no social media involvement at all. You don't have to go on social media. It's not a Facebook group or anything. And I have to mention this because it is online. I always invite you, or, maybe not explicitly every time, but the invitation is to step away from the screen and to move, hence the somatic movement breaks. And you can take the breaks outside with you. So many of my members actually do lie outside on the grass or stand on the grass when they can in the right weather and do these things outside. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it provides a really great balance between me guiding you through a meditative movement break and your own exploration, because that is what somatics is about. It's very much about you, what works for you, what is present for you, how are you being drawn to move, what is it that you need right now in this moment. And then I include reflection in the program as well to help just further a bit of that learning from these breaks, these mindful, meditative, somatic movement breaks. And so as a result, you get to know your body as a supportive resource and as a helpful messenger in stressful times as well. So going back to my mission, right? Self-care being the first thing to go when we get really stressed and overwhelmed and challenged. Through joyful breaks, you start to understand how you can work through that challenge, how you can resolve certain things, how you can support yourself better throughout these challenging times. Because I'm inviting you, because it's somatic, I'm inviting you to tune into your body and notice what feels welcome. You know, sometimes it's simply holding the face. And that can be a whole 10 minutes of mindfulness in itself, and meditative kind of movement. And what I love about it too is that it's not exclusive of other breaks. So all of the other breaks I listed, you can still do those. And in fact, it's a perfect starting point. It's a perfect starting point for you to experiment with different kinds of breaks that work for you, and so to create healthier habits. And you receive, if you're open to it, all the body-mind benefits that I mentioned in my free training, How to Go from Exhausted to Energized in 12 Minutes. There are a lot. And so it's really worth just taking those few minutes a few times a day to take this kind of break. So overall, the benefit of these kinds of breaks, particularly the ones on my program, is that your compulsion to work incessantly or to really be obsessed with this project that you're doing or whatever, it just softens. You start to, you know, step back a little bit and gain perspective of your life, of your work, your business. And it helps you become more present with what is truly important to you. It helps you become more present with life, how you are living your life, how you would like to live your life, how your body and your mind are asking you, and especially your body, are asking you to live your life. So in conclusion, there is no right or wrong kind of break. Even the social media breaks, which I was dissing a bit earlier, or the TV, you know, those we need those sometimes, right? We need to see sometimes what's happening in the world. It's just about being aware of when it crosses the line of from healthy to unhealthy. So it's about finding the right time for each type of break and about finding the breaks that work for you. This is really important, that this is unique to you. No one can tell you, well, this works for me, so it must work for you, right? And so it's about the journey. Like, let's go on this journey together to explore what will work for you. What kind of breaks will resource you, will refresh you, will inspire you in your work. So what's next? Well, I want to support you on this journey, and I did create this free training, which I've mentioned a couple of times already, and you might have already watched it, which is why you're here. It's called How to Go from Exhausted to Energized in 12 Minutes. It's just over an hour since the last time I recorded it and held it live. It's actually a replay of a live training, and I've provided the link below. And I recommend you grab my free guide, 6 Steps to Self-Care for Solopreneurs. It's pictured here. When you sign up for the free training, you'll receive a link to that as well. And you might have already received that in your email, so check out. If you've signed up for the training, you should have received a link to that soon after you receive the link to the training. And if you need a routine of taking breaks, of checking in with yourself, like I just mentioned in the mindful, meditative, somatic movement breaks, if you need more insights into what truly refreshes and nurtures your body and mind, I recommend that you join Joyful Breaks. So sign up. You can do it right away. The link is below. It's super affordable. I'd love to support you on your journey. Reach out to me personally as well if you have any questions. And for now, I think the biggest thing is that in order to find the right kind of breaks for you, you just need to experiment. So don't think about it. Just see what works for you. Try out different things, maybe at different times. Maybe design a little routine for yourself and try it out and then tweak it. And definitely practice breaks regularly. So it's super important that we get into the habit of being regular with our break taking. And it might not always be the same breaks. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions for me. Let me know if this mini course was helpful to you at all. If you have specific questions about the Joyful Breaks program, then please message me. You can also comment below, but you might want to message me. There's a contact form on my website, which is down here, joyinmovement.org. And if you know my social media handles, feel free to reach out to me that way. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and also on TikTok. So thank you for your time. I wish you all the best in creating the life that you want to live and being refreshed and alive and full of joy in that life. And I hope to see you on one of my programs soon, or simply, join one of my in-person classes, which I hold locally as well here in New Hampshire, where I live. And just take care. Take good care of yourself. Thank you.